And it's rolling right now? Wow. Hello. My name is Michael. Beth? Hi.
Oh, hi, Michael. Colin.
Alan?
Colin. Colin?
Colin.
Colin.
K-A-L-L-E-N?
Yeah, Colin.
Oh, Colin.
Yeah,
Yes,
Colin.
yes.
Colin Jost, yeah.
Sometimes it's animation, sometimes it's not.
Pleased to meet you.
Pleasure
Go back
to
one.
meet you.
Split.
I'm about to introduce this guy.
All right, that's good.
You know him?
I just met him.
Oh, you just met him.
Yeah.
What brought you here?
Hello? Hello?
This talk?
But I mean, what's the
Sorry?
how did you hear about it?
Is that all right?
Online.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Online. Yeah.
Great.
What do you think? Is it good? All right.
All right.
Okay, do you want to introduce me?
Yeah, these are really good.
Sure, whatever you want. I'm here to serve, here to
So
entertain.
processed. It's delicious.
I'm here for. Michael's gonna say something about me. It's not too rude. You know he is.
Well, I'm not going to start with you, Scott, so relax for just a second. I want to welcome everyone to the Friday night peace venue in the gathering place of the Church of the Brethren. There are Friday night peace venues every Friday night of the year here, run by the church. And the church asked the Peace Resource Center, which is one of the 4 partners on this campus, to program every 3rd Friday night of the month. And we've been doing that for almost a year. And so recently at an event here on this campus, I got in touch with my friend Scott Kelly, who's going to talk to us tonight, and we talked about this presentation that's going to take place in here tonight. And before we do that, I also speaking on behalf of Jay, who's in charge of this place on all Friday night peace venues, or at least he's the senior guy in charge. And he wants to remind me to remind you that out that white door is the men's bathroom from the outside, and out that white door is the women's bathroom from the outside. And I guess I'll go on and say a few words about my good friend Scott. He is a professor of biology at San Diego State University and program director of bioinformatics and medical informatics at SDSU. I'm sorry, I cannot translate that for you. Maybe you'll want to say something about that. And as you know, his topic tonight is AI, with this remarkable title that he himself came up with, Death by AI. Tech Bros plans to kill you for profit. Now, I don't know whether we placed the apostrophe in bros in the right place or not, but he'll tell us whether he has more than one in mind. With this, please welcome Scott Kelly.
Total clickbait. All right, thank you, everybody. Tech bros, yeah, you're right. Bros, and then that, whatever. Sure, the AI would have gotten it right. All right, so yeah, I'm Scott Kelly, professor of biology, why am I talking about computational stuff? Well, actually, bioinformatics. Informatics is, I think, a British term for computation. And so I study biology using computers. And I help write algorithms, and I teach algorithms, and of course I've had to teach things like machine learning, which is what artificial intelligence is. It's a branch, a sophisticated part of machine learning. And machine learning is very simple. It is not intelligence. I do not like to call it intelligence. That's a marketing tool, all right? It is a great facsimile of intelligence, and it gets a lot of beautiful fakes, sort of like the Mechanical Turk. could play chess, but there was a guy inside. It's the same kind of thing, okay? But it's really, really good at certain things. I mean, it's pretty good at coding, let's face it. It's pretty good. But I can tell you, when my students use it to try to learn coding, they don't learn nothing. They learn nothing, right? And I had a guy from Germany, Heidelberg. He came and he said, my class was the first time he ever learned to code. He had a whole class in Germany. He didn't understand anything the professor said, because he's probably German. No, I'm sorry. But I make fun of Lisa there is German. But he just spoke too fast. So all the students just finished every assignment with ChatGPT, and he said he didn't learn a thing. And I had that happen again. I'm like, you're using it, but you don't understand it, right? So pedagogically, just like a lot of tech crap that they've been foisted on us for decades now, it's garbage. It'd be better to go back to chalkboard and chalk, I swear. You know, get rid of all the tablets, get rid of all the phones, get rid of all that crap, give them a book, you know, go on chalk, you get a lot better thinking and learning. So it's really a pet peeve of mine, and this year it was particularly grim, I have to say. Okay, so let's talk about today. This is a bit of a clickbait thing, but I don't think it's as clickbaity as it looks like it, right? Because there is a lot of death that AI is going to be involved in, you know, because this is what I say about new technology. What's the first thing we do, especially the United States of America, but all the Western things? What is the first thing we do with a new piece of technology?
Apply it to weapons.
Yeah, we figure out how to kill somebody with it, you know? That's what they do. What is the first thing the general said when they had a drone? You know, there's a general like, hey, look, we got this great drone. Drone's made in San Diego. What did the general come and say? He said, oh, look, you can surveil. You can look at all the battlefield. You can do this. What did he say? How can I put a missile on it? That's what he said. How can I put a Hellfire missile on it? Like, they give away the game. I mean, why do they call it hell? Right? I mean, are you the devil? Yeah, it sounds like it. You just kill people from the sky. You don't know them. You use signals intelligence. You don't know anybody. You never talk to them. You drop bombs on them, blow them up, watch their guts spill out. And seriously, this is what happens. You know, that's what they do. Okay, so this isn't going to be, like, it can be used for great things. First of all, I'm not going to give you a talk of how great AI is. AI has some good uses, I think, in science, with really, really good data, and exceptionally good reasons, and also knowing whether the outcome is true or not. That's really a key. Can you verify the outcome? I think it could be powerful and has the potential to be powerful, say, finding cancers that other people can't find, that the doctors miss. But the data should be really good, it should really test it. And it can do things like model climate, like you couldn't believe. There's no other way. But that's not what we're sold on. We're sold on it's going to be a new form of super intelligence. It's going to do all your work for it. It's going to save the world. It's going to... Come on, we know what they're really going to use it for. They're going to fire you, right? They're going to fire you. They're going to use it for bombs. This is a marketing thing, so they're going to make us pay for it. Okay, but I'm going to talk to you why I think it's so dangerous. And by the way, this is the first time I've given this talk, although I've thought about it for many years. And by the way, I've been right every single time about where this is going. You know, I really said this is going to be just garbage. We're just going to fill the internet with garbage, and it's going to steal everybody's stuff to do it. That's what's happening. So if you go to the next slide. So, 2 slides are. I gave the game away by giving the next slide. But anyone know what this is? Remember? Some people my age probably grew up around this time, in the 80s and went to the movies. This is a hunter-killer, right? This is a hunter-killer from, no, go to the next slide. The Terminator, 1984. You probably heard of the Terminator. You've heard of the Governator. You might have voted for him, maybe not. In retrospect, he wasn't as bad a governor. At least he believed in climate change. Right. You know? The other guys were total losers. Yeah, he actually wasn't. He, right now, is a left-wing Democrat. You know? I swear, he is. Anyway, he plays, if you don't know the movie, he plays a killer robot that's run by AI, right? That's what he is. He doesn't have any meaning. And why is he so scary? Because he has no feelings. The only thing he does is kill. He's really good at it. He's unstoppable. He doesn't care about where you come from. He doesn't care about your backstory. He doesn't want to get to know you. Wants to put a bullet in your head. That's it. That's all it does, because it's a machine. And we all intuitively know that you shouldn't give machines weapons, because they don't care about you. I tell this to my students all the time. I say, you get mad at the computer when you're programming, but it doesn't care. It has no feelings. That's why you shouldn't give it a weapon. But of course. So let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is a scene from the movie, and let's see, go to the, click one ahead. And my question is, whose side are you on? Whose side are you on? Are you on these people's side over here in the corner? All right, click the head. Regular people watch the movie and they're like, yeah, I feel for these people. I don't want the AI to blow them up and murder them and come after them. Go to the other side. Tech pros are over here. And I include that as the military too, because they're all involved in the military. I just want you to know that. Amazon, Google, OpenAI, everything Musk does, we fund them to build bombs to blow up other people. That's what we do. Okay, we fund them. They make us pay for that. So they look at this movie and they don't see, oh, I should be afraid. Tech is better. They're like, how can I build one of these? And you know why I know that? Next slide. This is why I know that. Because I have a hunter killer. This is the hunter killer. This is the MQ-9 Reaper. Reaper drone, Hellfire, Reaper, Devil. Like this is just satanic stuff. They know it's satanic. Reaper, like we're gonna reap all the people in the world. So Jesus, no, I don't know what they're talking about. Well, it's a horrible name. And what are they gonna put in it? Artificial intelligence. So that's awesome. Awesome. You don't have to pick the targets, it'll find all the terrorists for you. Isn't that great? Nobody involved, just boom, 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 just like the other thing. Isn't that great? It's really fun. All right, and you can see that this is them blowing up a house or something, killing someone's entire wedding party. Give them $1,000 if you feel bad. Next slide, please. All right, so this is actually from the Autonomous Weapon and Dehumanization Automated Research Org from Stop Killer Robots. So there's a whole organization of people who realized this. They were in tech, and they realized what the tech people were doing. And they said, we've got to form an organization because this is out of control. Right? A lot of them got fired. I'm going to tell you, they're all gone now. They're all gone. Their whole ethics board of Google fired. Gone. As soon as they said, hey, this is a problem, they got rid of all of them. But digital dehumanization is the process which humans are reduced to data, which is then used to make decisions to take actions that negatively affect their lives. And this is the theme of this entire thing. This is the theme of where it's really going to be stuck, to make somebody some money. And that's really what it's about, making some money. Next slide. All right, and some of the people all remember that one on the right there. Hello, Dave. Does that ring a bell, huh? 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? Yeah. That was hey, did he care about whether Dave lived or died? No, this is back in the 60s. They all knew this was happening. The people who made movies absolutely predicted the future, and they were 100% right. It doesn't care. It's a machine. All right, so I'm sorry it's a little small up here, but what I'm going to talk about is what is artificial intelligence. I can't give you the whole breakdown, but I'm going to give you a little bit of it. I'm going to talk about machine learning and large language models. Then I'm going to talk about the ethics, the ecological effects, the ethics, and the moral disaster that really, really makes me angry. And then I'm going to talk about Kafka, Kafka's The Trial, which I think is the perfect metaphor for this whole business and what we're going to see. We're already seeing it. It's not something we have to see. We're already seeing it. Next slide, please. All right, what is artificial intelligence? I'll just give you a quick breakdown. Next slide. So machine learning is the use of computer algorithms and really statistics and probability to predict outcomes based on some kind of training data set. And over on the right here, you can see a regret. You can see a bunch of points. That's your data. And you have an X and a Y there. And you can see what the line is doing there. They're fitting the line to the data, right? So they're making sure trying to figure out based on this training data, what is the best fit to the line, because that's predicted, right? Because if you have a line here and you say, I have a number at, I don't know, my medicine amount is here, 35 milligrams, this is what the blood pressure will be. I'm just making it up. Because it's a predictive outcome, and it's a linear outcome because it's a line. So it's the simplest form of machine learning that we have, but it is machine learning. Learning on data, fitting a line, right? And that's kind of what we're doing, but in a much more sophisticated way with AI. You're getting a bunch of data, and you're doing a nonlinear fit, a massive nonlinear fit to a bunch of data, right? This is key. All machine learning require training sets. They cannot learn on their own. They're not like us. We need training sets too. But we can go out and find them. And we can figure them out and figure out what people are going to be wearing tonight. And you kind of know what kind of shoes most people have tennis shoes. You can learn from your training set. We all kind of do that. But it's very, very specific and very, very important, the training set. Whatever you put in determines the outcome. Just remember that. Remember that, because that's everything we have going on. The most complex machine learning methods we have is called an artificial neural network, ANN, and that's what we think of as AI. And there's these deep models, deep learning, what do they call it? Deep learning, massively advanced models that have a lot of parts to it. But they're essentially the same thing, just done on a massive scale. And they can make complex nonlinear things that aren't just x, y equals x, or whatever, mx plus b. Linear things, they can do hugely weird nonlinear stuff that you could never predict. We couldn't predict it by ourselves. So they can do some cool stuff. But it's in a way the things we talk about are really giant probability generators, right? So they're taking all this data in and they're asking, what is the most likely response given your input? Like given the training set and given my model, what is the best outcome probabilistically? And the more data I have, the better I'm at predicting it. You can imagine that, right? So, for instance, if I feed in all the English sentences and all the English words ever written, I can probably end the sentence, wherefore art thou, right? I could probably go to the next sentence, or you could say, tell me a way to tell my girlfriend that I should break up with her. And so there's so many people who have written that it's good at picking out, you should really go to a restaurant, and then this, and it'll give you a whole protocol of how to do it, right? But that's based on everybody who's broken up ever who wrote a thing on how to break up. Right. All right, so next slide, please. All right, so it's actually from biology, and I learned this a long time ago, and the neural networks are really simple. So this is where a biologist comes in, because I actually know how neurons work, right? And so this is a very simple neuron. It's a neuron, and it's got a cell here, and you can see the nucleus with the DNA. And it's got this thing called an axon, which is an electrical signal, right? So it feeds an input from what's called the dendrites, which are over here. And if enough input comes in, it triggers the cell to release what's called an action potential, which is the electrical signal. The electrical signal goes down the axon to the end of it and triggers the release of chemicals to cross over into other cells. Now, as a biologist, this is a very simple diagram of a very complex cell, right? We've got, thousands of proteins, gene expression, DNA. We've got all of these down. It's hugely complicated. Even a single cell is a massively complicated little organism in its own way, right? So what they do, if you go to the next slide, is that the first person to brought it up, okay, this is the slide, this is the action potential. When you reach a threshold of signal, you hit a spike and it sends a signal in, right? Look at the next slide. This is what the cartoon version of a neuron is for a neural network. It looks very similar. The person who designed the first neural network, the first cell, had pictures of neurons, and he took it directly from the biggest neuron, which was from a giant squid. So the giant squid is the reason we have neurons. Did you guys know this? The giant squid has a massive cell, huge axon. So in the early days, it was really easy to poke it because it was so big and do electrical signals because they could see it visually with the eye almost. So the giant squid axon was very simple, and it became the model for the first person who came up with the idea of a neuron, and he called it a neuron. And it's a little drawing, but it's nothing like an actual biological neuron. Absolutely nothing. And it's hard to, we confuse it because now we're using the terminology of biology and brains and intelligence. But it's really a diagram. And the diagram is we have a bunch of input data, which are numbers, and then we have a bunch of little lines here, which are the weights. And if there's enough weight, enough numbers here, it'll trigger the axon. And if you do one more slide. And if there's enough signal, it triggers an action potential, which means that this is a square. It's a very square kind of electrical signal. You might, if you're an electrician, you've probably seen something like this, like a gate. But it gets high enough, it triggers a signal, which gives you a numerical output, right? That's it. That's really it. And it gets more complicated because you can use lots and lots and lots of these things. But they're really a bunch of numbers, right? A bunch of numbers. So go to the next slide. So now this is what we built. It's this wild bunch of nodes, okay? So the input layer, this is the first neurons, this is the data. So you take a data set, I don't know, you could take a data set like pictures, all the pictures of cats out there, you decompose into a bunch of numbers, and then you feed bazillion cat images, which we have a lot of cat images, into these neurons, right? And then you propagate it through these middle layers, they're called hidden layers. And you can have many hidden layers. And they're all on different computers, and it's really complicated. And then you feed it backwards and forwards and this whole thing until you get the perfect model with all the weights. So the next time you have a new image, you feed it through and you said it's a cat. Or you can turn it around and you can say, go backwards and give me a cat image. Right? And so if you click ahead, ChatGPT, and this is how big these things are, has 1.8 trillion parameters. Trillion parameters. Next slide, next one. The training ground GPT has uses just to train the model. It takes 25,000 NVIDIA GPUs, each of like, I don't know, $2,000 each. Takes for 90 to 100 days of training to get the model. This is the training, which it costs approximately $100 million, right? That's to train it. Right? Every time, and of course, it's training massive data sets. It's a phenomenal feat, but it takes a lot of computers, a lot of time, right? So to train a model to tell you what you should put on your pizza. So it's cool, but it's just the scale is mild. When I think of what the human brain can do on 20 watts of energy, 20 watts, and then I think of this, it's just no comparison as far as intelligence. It's just none. There's none. All right, next slide. Or actually, also, no one knows what it's doing. They have mathematicians who try to figure out what's going on inside. You can only look at it afterwards to try to guess how it's actually working. But they don't actually know because it's too big. Okay, so if it's so smart, why can't it spell strawberry? Or it sort of spells it, but this is pretty funny. Go ahead and click it. Next one. The other way. Okay, sorry you can't hear this, but this is a chat. I'll read the chat for you. Hi there, how can I help you today? Can you tell me how many R's there are in strawberry? There are 2 R's in strawberry. There are 3 R's. I think you're incorrect. Please check again. I double checked and there are 2 R's in strawberry. There's 3 R's in strawberry. This is the strawberry model, the most advanced OpenAI model. Cannot count the number of R's in strawberry, right? And I'll show you why, actually. It can do a lot of things, don't get me wrong, but it can't do that. All right, let's go to the next one. Did you hear about the pizza? Someone asked, how I can't get my cheese to stick to pizza. How could I get it to stick to pizza? You're thinking, well, you would melt the cheese on the pizza, dumbass, right? What does ChatGPT says? It says you can add about 1/8 of a cup of non-toxic glue to the sauce. Why? Why would it say that? Go to the next one. This one is pretty funny. It's like fruits that end with apple banana strawberry. Just make stuff up. It's guessing. It's not hallucinating. People think hallucinations. Hallucinations are cool. Hallucinations you have on LSD. No, I don't do that stuff. But hallucinations are actually a religious thing. This isn't hallucinating. It's guessing, it's probabilistic. That's why it's doing this, right? And some things it's really good at, but it isn't good at this. What's in it? One more really like this one. How to clean a rescued pigeon. This is a mod, like, oh, here's the steps for cleaning a pigeon. Like, you have a pigeon, you want to make yours clean. 1, remove the label. 2, remove the head. 3, it's telling you how to cook the pigeon. Right? Why? Why is it doing all that? Why? And this is the key right here. It's because some moron, some 10-year-old on Reddit wrote this as a joke. And this is the only thing it had to train on. It only didn't have like all this information about how to stick glue to pizza. It's the stupid question. It had one 10-year-old on Reddit who wrote this, and that's all it had to train on. And it can't think. If you think about it, you're like, wait a minute, you can't, glue on pizza is disgusting. Wait, rescue a pigeon, strawberries, just look at strawberry. It has 3 R's, but it's not looking. This is what it's really doing. Go to the next slide. Okay, so sentences and images, pixels, are actually broken down into pieces, into they're tokenized. It doesn't see anything. It can't see a picture of a dog. It can't see the word strawberry. It's a machine. And when you deal with machines, and we do this, it can be very powerful, but it breaks it up into little bits that are not connected anymore. So here's an example. Here is how it might tokenize a sentence. Today is a beautiful day. Each one of those becomes a number, a value. And that value is broken up into bits, zeros and ones, because computers are switches, essentially, very tiny switches, on or on. Right? So that's why it can't count R, a strawberry, because it's strawberry, it's 3 different things. It doesn't see them in one thing. It's putting them together in a unit, right? It's grabbing things from probabilities. It's not thinking. And it's very important that it's not thinking for the rest of my talk. It cannot use reason. It cannot use logic. It has no emotion. It can fake it because other people have emotion. We have emotion, but it doesn't. And that's very important when we're thinking of using it in society. Okay, next slide. Okay, so let's talk about, before I get into the real guts of my talk, and why I think the corporations and people really like using it, I'm going to talk about the overview of how disastrous it is right now as it's configured for the planet. So, ecological, ethically, and morally, I think it has some serious issues that a lot of people, including all my colleagues, ignore. If you want, by the way, if you want to go and see positive things about AI, go on Google right now and type in Google and climate change. Type in Google and ethics. Type in Google and say how to fix climate change. You can make 1,000 articles like that on all the good stuff. I'm here for the other side. So if you don't like what I have to say, that's fine. You can find a lot of puff pieces out there. You go find those, right? But there's a lot that isn't so nice. So next slide. All right, so we have a climate catastrophe. I hope I'm in the right audience for that. But LA is burning to the ground. You know, there's a lot of reasons why LA is burning to the ground. We know why. Like, they built in this terrible place that burns every 10 or 20 years. That's stupid. But when's the last time you guys had any rain? Is it 9 months? We're going on 9 months drought? Holy crap. That is a disaster. We're heating and overheating. We have to stop now. This is not what they're doing. They're lying to you. They are exacerbating climate crisis like you cannot believe. And they're making us all pay for it. We're accelerating the climate crisis. AI is a massive energy hog. Massive energy hog. When you use it, it's 10 times more energy to do a ChatGPT search than it is a regular Google search. 10 times the energy. The water usage is growing by the minute. Water usage in California on AI? We need water to put out fires. This is absurd. Do we really the energy? We could run all the hospitals, all the schools, all the universities on AI, what the energy AI is using. And what are we using it for? To find out how many R's there are on strawberry? The mineral usage, just think of all those data centers. They've got to use lithium, they've got to use rare minerals, they've got to use plastics, they've got to dig up the ground. Nothing can live there. They move that data center, all the animals and plants are dead. These things are massive polluters, massive hogs of energy usage. And you have to ask yourself, what are we getting out of it? Is it worth it? Next slide, please. Okay, here's a report. This is amazing, amazing. So right now, already, almost 5% of our energy use in the United States is for AI, is for data centers. Not just AI, but data centers. But because AI is growing, they estimate in just a few years, we're talking 580 terawatt hours. It'll be roughly 6 to 12% of all U.S. electricity. And we have 300 million people. We have heavy industry. We have airports. We have all this stuff. 30 to 53 million households worth of electricity will go just to power AI, as it's currently configured. That's not sustainable. And we're expecting to have our rates go up. You think SDG&E is bad now? Just wait. This is going to impact all our rates. Countries have kicked out computer guys, mostly the crypto guys, because they made electricity so unstable. In Azerbaijan, they kicked out all the crypto guys because they were ruining the electrical grid and they couldn't bake bread. That's how bad it was. Ireland has stopped all building of data centers because they're like, we don't have enough water, energy. Next slide. All right, so what are we going to do? So now AI is running into trouble. It's running into real trouble. All these hucksters are like, companies are finding out they're not making as much money as they're going to. The energy usage, the cost is going up. Once they get you into ChatGPT, you might be hooked. What if you only knew how to code from ChatGPT? What if they took it away, or they said you have to pay for it now? You'd pay. So they're trying to hook us on it, but it's getting really tough. So what's going to happen? They're going to go to the government, of course. So Biden just boosts AI spending. He just says, no, 20 more now, we're going to keep up with China. And then dark money, we're going to spend crypto's back. You thought that stuff went away? You know what the number one use of crypto is? What's the number one use of cryptocurrency? Crime. Crime. Yeah. Yeah, we're paying for crypto. You know why the government is paying for crypto right now? This is amazing. Because we have so much fraudulent crypto, the government doesn't know what to do with it because all those companies stole all the money. So we pay crypto companies to take care of the crypto that was defrauded from U.S. people. That's weird. And those guys have billions, so now they are in our government and they're telling us what to do. I know a professor who got $15 million from a crypto guy. 15 million, they have so much money. And then AI brings emissions soaring. They're lying to you about their emissions. This is how much they're lying. Next slide. That's how much they're lying about their emissions. 662% higher than they said it was. Liars. Why are they lying to you? Because they're making money. We're Americans. I think it's weird that Americans know this. I think fundamentally, we know that the point of capitalism, the point of businesses is to make money. We know that in our hearts, and yet we defend it to our lives. It's like, I don't understand why conservatives are like, yeah, they're trying to screw me. You know, they're going, oh, we know they're going to try to get us, because that's what they do. That's what capitalists do. That's what business does. And somehow we're like, no, we like that. I don't get it. Anyway, next slide. Okay, so this is other things you don't want to know. You don't want to know this stuff. This is really shocking. This is the ethical part of it. Who tells AI, or who tells the computers, who tells Google what a naked body is, what a porn picture is? Who tells them? It can't know by itself. There's no way. Who knows when a video is of a child? Does a computer know without you someone telling it that a child is being stuck in a washing machine? Does it know that? Can it know that? No. Someone has to tell it that video of a child being stuck in a washing machine, right? And I'm not making this up. This is from the articles. These are people who in other countries are paid peanuts to watch videos that we would never in our life want to watch at. I couldn't stand watching any of that stuff. Without those people, that stuff would be all over our Google image search. Computers cannot do that. They must be trained to know that something is horrific. They're computers, right? So you have to feed it, like, this video is nasty, don't do that. This video is nasty, don't do that. This video, right? Someone has to do that. These people are traumatized. Absolutely PTSD, right? So this guy actually, go back. This guy actually has a whole story about how he did it. And then ChatGPT, same thing. How do you know that the N-word is being said? How do you know to filter out the N-word? Someone in Kenya has to read it and flag it. They have to read the most racist, horrific shit. excuse my language, for $2 a day. $2 a day. They go back, after a year of that, they're completely traumatized. Imagine being called that every single day of your entire, for a year. Yeah.
Scott, what's the job that those people are doing called? Is there a name for this?
Yeah, I mean, I
monitoring?
can't even read it. It's really hard to read this stuff, right? They have descriptions. What do they call it?
Like data annotator, annotate, like data.
Yeah, I guess
annotate.
data annotator. They're trying to unionize because they're treated so badly.
So it's data what?
Annotate like you
Data annotator.
like you annotate this. You have to put a tag. You ever see tags? You see tags, right? Hashtags and stuff. You have to tag it as something bad so the computer knows it. Now, after many, many years of learning all this, then they can learn it, and then maybe you don't have to pay so many people to do it. Maybe. Except for the next slide. Now, it's making its own, right? So this is what's happening in classrooms, and it's a huge problem, is that in middle school, they have access to making videos of their classmates. And that, guess what? That video gets made, they can post it online. And guess what? That video gets read by the computer and back into the training set. Remember the training set. Remember the training set. We're running out of training data, so it's going to train on its own crap. It's called autocoprophagy. When you eat your own poop. So if you fill right now, ChatGPT and all these things have to use information from real people. They're sweeping up the web for images and videos and words and sentences, right? Then they're going to run out. They've already used it all up. They're really running out. They're stealing everything in Google that you write, everything you type in your computer for Apple, all of that you've signed away for them to read. But they're running out because the models keep getting bigger. And then what happens is they're starting to generate this crap. That's going to go back on the web. Then that's going to get read back into the AI. You see the problem here? And they do simulations of this, and they show that it gets worse and worse and worse over time. It gets poorer and poorer, and the images get terrible, and it gets simpler and stupider. Right? It already sounds like every business person wrote every single thing. Sorry, I don't want to get down to businesses, but they all sound kind of similar and corporate, right? So this is what's happening, and I would not want my kid to see any of this. But hey, you have a phone. Here it is. Next slide. Okay, and plagiarism on a massive scale. This hurts me so much. If you say, okay, go ahead, next slide. All right, so here's some of the things. They're getting sued left, right, and center. Newspapers, they're sweeping up all the newspapers. They get no money or credit. Next. Lisa. Visual artists, go back one. Visual artists, people who draw for a living. All of their data, all of their drawings, everything is getting done, no compensation. No compensation. Next. It's not working, stupid thing. Okay. Artists, I saw Billy audition the first tour by accident. Absolutely phenomenal artist, unique vision. They're like, wait a minute, you're taking our music and you're using it to make AI. You're using it to make music. You're not giving us a penny for this. Right? So they're taking all this stuff. If you say, write me a book like Hemingway, what does the computer have to do to write a book like Hemingway? It has to read all of Hemingway's books. It can't just come up with it out of nowhere. What if it says Hemingway, maybe that stuff's out of print, fine, read that. But what if it's my book? It says write like Scott Kelly. He has to read all of my books. It has to read everything. It doesn't pay for it. It's online, it takes it. And then it makes a book, and I'm out of work. That's what it is. They don't compensate anybody for this. And not one of those people, not one of those computer scientists could write an article, could draw a painting more than a stick figure, or could dance or sing if their life depended on it. Yet they're making money off everybody who can. That's why I will not listen to Spotify, by the way. I know everyone loves it. But that guy, people who make great music are sleeping in their mom's basement, while the Spotify billionaire from Sweden, he couldn't dance or sing if his life depended on it. Really, I love music. I think it's just a crime that they'd steal everything. Anyway, compensate people, that's different. If you compensate people, maybe. Next slide. Okay, now I'm going to get to the guts of why this is a future issue. This is what's happening, but I think this is going to be coming. So I'm going to talk about Kafka's The Trial. Has anyone read or know of the trial? You know about Kafka.
Yeah.
15 years ago, right? So I'll remind you of it. The trial, you probably know about Metamorphosis. Die Verhandlung, right? Maybe. Okay, so this is going to be about the trial, which I think is a perfect metaphor. And I thought it was really funny because the next slide is Kafka, the AI dog. So this is by San Diego State. They had the dogs at SDSU, this little puff piece about all the dogs at SDSU, right? And a lot of them are like therapy dogs, nursing dogs, and then a whole bunch of bomb sniffing dogs, which are like, really? We're paying for lots of bomb sniffing dogs and saying, okay, whatever. And then the last dog was this cute little, what are these, pufferdoodles or something like that? You know what they're called, like labradoodles or something like that. Very cute dog. And I think the guy, the Center for Intelligence, named it Kafka. Kafka the AI dog. I just like, they can't be more perfect. Next slide. Because this is the trial. This is the story of the trial. The trial by Kafka is a simple story of a simple man. He just one day, a few people walk into his room and they arrest him. They don't tell him why. They don't tell him who arrested him. They say, you gotta come with us, or you have to appear for a trial. Right? They just show up and he has no idea why. They don't tell him anything. Doesn't know what he did wrong. Completely okay. Right? He goes in to try to deal with it, and he runs into this. An absolute bureaucracy. Can't talk to anyone. No one knows what's going on. His lawyer's incompetent. He still can't get a straight answer. The law doesn't know. The judge doesn't even know he's arrested for. Can't talk. This is starting to sound like a chatbot. It's starting to sound like a chatbot. And then at the end, they take him off and they shoot him. And they have no idea why. So this is my metaphor, and I'm going to talk about each part of this, right? So let's say we're going to talk about criminal justice, bureaucracy, and death, right? Next slide. All right, so criminal justice is the first one. You get taken away. Are you guilty? I don't know. Is the AI going to decide? Next slide. All right, so this is Peter Thiel. Anyone know Peter Thiel?
Sure.
This is his job. Peter Thiel created a company called Palantir. These guys love doing this. They do everything Lord of the Rings. But this is Sauron's eyeball. And if you know Lord of the Rings, Sauron looked at it to spy on everybody. And Sauron, by the way, is the bad guy, right? You don't call it the Palantir. That makes you bad. They know what they're doing. What are they doing with this? Well, first of all, the data set. Remember I said the data set, the training set is so important? What is the data set? Think about that. So what they're doing here is, ever see Minority Report with Tom Cruise, where they like predict who's going to be a criminal? That's what they're doing. They're going to predict who is the most likely to offend. That's really interesting. Okay, so first of all, what's their data set? Well, we know that their data set, it's called the Pale Male data set. It's really good because there's a lot of pictures of white guys in this data set. It couldn't pick up a black person's face for the longest time. So think about that. Secondly, across, where are aided by the police? This is it. Aided by the police, the LAPD is using this Palantir to go find the neighborhoods where they're going to arrest people. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we're going to go to the neighborhoods where we're going to arrest. Okay, well, how do they know how to go to, which neighborhoods to go to? This is my question for you. What data, what's the training data of the neighborhoods that you should go to predict crime?
Crime stats, they use crime statistics.
Crime statistics, that's pretty good. You got the crime statistics? How about who's in jail?
Yeah.
Well, about who's in jail? Who's in jail?
Black and brown.
Right? Black and brown people, that's right. They get arrested and charged and convicted for way longer sentences. I've studied the drug war for decades. And I can tell you for the same crime, black men do 10 times the time. Right? So who's in jail? And the other thing, what class of people go to jail? Poor people. So if I were to say, well, I'm gonna train on where I should go pick people up, I would feed my data sets of who was in prison. I'd feed in their addresses, I'd feed in their zip codes, and then what would I do? Where would you go? I'd go to those places, right? And of course the police already think they're bad because the police No, those are the they know. You talk to them, oh yeah, I know where all the bad people are, right? They already have surveillance cameras. Where is their surveillance cameras in San Diego right now? Where are they put? They're put in the black and brown neighborhoods. That's where they have them right now. So what does that mean? Well, they're going to go to those neighborhoods. They're going to arrest more people because that's what cops do. They're going to put those people in jail, and then they're going to feed that back into the training set. And they're going to say it's unbiased because the computer did it. I didn't tell them. It's like, well, wait a minute. Where is the most criminology in the last 20 years, 30 years? Wall Street, maybe?
Yeah, white collar.
You know, if they had put, yeah, exactly. Wall Street, if they had put, you know, they put Bernie Madoff in jail. Remember that guy? Bernie Madoff. You know why they put him in jail? He's the only one to go to jail? Because he stole from rich people.
He screwed up the Mets.
Yeah, he screwed up the Mets, and the Met owner doesn't like. He stole from rich people. In the savings and loan crisis, do you know how many people they put in jail? 4,000. They put 4,000 white-collar criminals in jail. The criminal was 5 times or 10 times, it was about 10 times as much criminality in 2008. They should have put 40,000 people in jail. They put 1, right? So if they had put those people in jail, maybe they'd send the police to New York City, down to Wall Street, and start arresting people. So you see where I'm going with this? Okay, so this is my first part of the trial. How are you going to use AI to arrest someone? What are they arresting it for? Are you even guilty? They might come and get you anyway. Right? The AI told them to do it. Next slide. And sentencing. They're using it in sentencing. Sentencing, the judge is like, well, you're guilty, so I'm going to go to the AI and going to say, are you, how long should your sentence be? Well, the AI says you're a bad, bad man. You're a bad, bad person. What is that based on? It's based on the people maybe who look like you, maybe from your same neighborhood, maybe have the same background. I don't know. No one knows, and no one knows what's going on in the training set. Nobody. Do you know? Has anyone showed you the training set? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I don't know what they are. And if you don't know the training set, and this is what I tell my students, we have this problem in science. We put in a bad training set. We tell people who don't have cancer they have cancer. We put in a good training set, and that problem kind of goes away. But they don't tell us. Nobody's telling us anything. Next slide. A bureaucracy. This is where it's coming. It's going to come for everybody. And this is where it's coming for anyone who actually has any health care. So next slide. All right, so this is what's happening in a lot of these. It's great for companies to get rid of people and replace them with a computer. Saves them lots of money, makes quarterly profits go up. And we know that United Healthcare is a class act in this, but also Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage is a private company. They're privatizing and this is going to go on steroids with the Trump administration. They got Dr. Oz in there. Dr. Oz owns stock in these companies. They're going to make us all buy this crap, and they're going to use algorithms to decide whether you should get kicked out of the hospital or not. So they had this story of a woman in her 80s who broke her hip. And they said, we're denying you any more coverage. And she's like, I still have a broken hip. The doctor calls. Nope, you can't leave. Our algorithm says you need to go 18 days in the hospital. 18 days, she's in agony. No one to take care of her. Kicked out of the hospital. The doctor can't do anything. She's out of there. Why? Because the AI said that's how many days you should be there. Based on all the data. All the data. Next slide. United Health Model, AI. This is great. 90% error rate when denying care. 90%. They don't care. They don't care at all because they don't have to pay any of those bills. And we know how much those bills are. They don't have to pay them. You're out. See you later. See you later. This is, I don't know anyone who doesn't have a horror story. Especially young people. It's insane. It's insane. I got a kidney transplant. That's why I still wear a mask. I get a paper in my house, inside and out, with letters that say, don't pay this bill. Because Kaiser. Right? Because they knew that the other thing was going to bill me, because I was getting a UCSD. Finally, UCSD slipped in a bill for $5,000 to my brother who gave me the kidney. And they said, oh, I guess it's a little mistake. I'm sorry about that. That's nothing compared to what people are bankrupt. That's why people are out on the streets. We have more medical debt than anything but student debt. It's massive. And this is going to help out tremendously. You just don't, look, they take your money for 20 years, you get in an accident, and they don't give you anything. What's not to love? What's not to love? AI will make this great. I'll tell you why I think it's so great for them in a minute. Next slide. Here's a story. This is great because you have you have people who go in, right? They get kicked out of the hospital. They're old, so it's very difficult for them. Maybe they don't have to call every single day. Maybe they get a robot. Maybe they get a person for months. Then they sue, and it takes 2 years to go through the courts to try to get their money, and they might just be dead. So they can just wait them out. And one of the women who did this, it happened to, she died before she could get her money back in total agony. Agony. So it's a great system because they never have to pay out. They'll just let you die. It's awesome. Next slide. And this is, I think, what we're going to see as we move forward. We're already seeing it. I don't know if you guys have talked to chatbots. Have you called them or texted with them? Please try not to. But anyone who has, you get frustrated really quick. People hate them. They hate them because they don't think, they don't answer questions. I know people who literally yell into the phone, give me an effing person. Give me an effing person. Right? But hey, it saves a lot of money because lots of corporations are more than happy to let these people out of their jobs. This is the goal. One of the goals is to fire people to keep the money for yourself. That's the goal. That's what part of AI is for. It's brilliant. But here's the thing. In companies, I think it's not going to work. Like if you have a firm, unless you're a monopoly. So SDG&E, Cox has a terrible chatbot. I can't get an answer from them anymore. If I do talk to a person, they're in the Philippines, they don't know anything, right? GoDaddy, terrible customer service. I used to talk to a real person. Now they can't fix anything. They don't know what's going on. I can't even install a program or tell me it's installed. It's insane. This is great though. If you're stuck with them and you can't leave them, they can keep doing it. If you can leave them, you will leave them. And I think people will start to leave. But monopolies like SDG&E, boy, a chatbot would be great. Send all your complaints to the chatbot. But here's where they could also put it now that we have AI guys running the whole show. They could, like Elon wants to fire 30,000 federal workers. Well, replace them with his chatbots. He'll make money. He can fire workers. We can save money. You could have the IRS be a chatbot. You could talk to a chatbot at Social Security, immigration. I should run the show. I should do this. I have great ideas. DMV, talk to a chatbot. Veterans Affairs, Medical Affairs, Parole Officers, Disability Insurance. Like I know there's people in Missouri who are just all of a sudden the algorithm changed everything. And they were stuck in their own feces because they said you don't need any help. And they couldn't fight it because they're stuck in a wheelchair and no one's helping them. That's the kind of thing computers can do. And then people say, oh, it's fine, the computer decided. Next slide. And then they can just kill you. All right? So this is really, where it's going. This is where I started it, and I'm ending it here too, because it's actually happening. Right? So in the end of the book, without any conviction or anything, they take him out to a field and they shoot him and leave him for dead. Right? That's the end of the story. And I think Kafka, like the trial, it's a really interesting story because that's the last part. Next slide. So Lavender is an AI algorithm that decides who should live and who should die in Palestine. Right? Who should live? Okay, well, they're going after terrorists, right? They got an AI to do it. Great, we're going to select our targets. Where do they get the targets? Who decides who's a terrorist? Who decides? The Israeli IDF decides. Mossad, the people in jail, they jail everybody. They put everybody. They get kids, they put women, they put everybody in jail. Maybe they just say everybody who moves is a terrorist. Wow, that's great. Well, they're using it to and who knows what the training data is for this? Who knows if they're guilty, if they're actually part of Hamas? Are they a real militant? I don't know. The AI decided. Next slide. It's using, remember the Antarctica drones? They have evidence that they're using quadcopters, little quadcopters with guns on them, shoot people in the head. And they don't have to decide. No human has to do it. They just follow people around. Next slide. Killer drones in Ukraine. Swarms of killer drones run by AI in Ukraine, going back and forth. This is happening. I'm not making this stuff up. What if it goes back here and goes after a protest? Next slide. AI, small killer drones against civilians, right? AI, there's you choose the targets. Next Next slide. Shooting children in the head with AI. Just like, last slide. And they have the drones would come down and pick off the civilians. It's not an occasional thing. Day after day, they had children would say, I was lying on the ground after a bomb drop, and this quadcopter came down and shot me. It's just seeking for movement. Next slide. And I think this is why they love it so much. Just like in Kafka, there's an unseen agent, right, controlling it. You don't have it. But even in the remotest drone, drones, they thought drones would be great because you got an operator in Utah looking at a picture in Afghanistan, dropping a bomb on somebody. You don't have to get personal. You don't have to know them. You can just do it from a distance, like a video game. But even the drone operators were having PTSD. They saw the after effects of this, and this is quite serious. And they were like, I can't do this anymore. I can't watch, because what happened, they killed one person, maybe that was the terrorist. But then 3 people were around them. And they got hit with shrapnel and bled to death, and they watched them because they hovered. Right? Next slide.
Hey, Scott,
Yeah.
just before you go on to the next one, there's a term, a wonderful term for that, and it's moral injury.
Moral injury. Right. Right. Thank you for bringing that up. That's my last point.
Oh.
So, trial. The trial, I think, is brilliant because Kafka was Jewish, and Kafka was, I think this is a treatise about law and God and an unseen judge, right? And I'm thinking, AI is the ultimate amorality machine. It's not immoral, it's amoral. It has no morality. It's a machine, and it's brilliant because you don't have to worry about its feelings. It's an unseen judge. It was, maybe God existed but didn't care. I don't know, I'm just reading into Kafka. I haven't studied this formally. But CEOs and generals, they rank high on the sociopath scale. They really do. AI is the ultimate machine that executes whatever it is. Denies you healthcare, denies you a job, denies you, whatever, or tells you that you should be arrested or killed, and has no remorse. It can't have remorse. People feel guilt, shame, remorse, sentencing an innocent person. I might feel guilty for that. Denying a widow with three kids health care. I might feel guilty about that. Murdering a baby in cold blood. I might feel guilty about that. My machine won't. It won't care. And they can claim that it was fair. It's unbiased. It's a machine. It just uses data. It's always right. You're wrong and it's right. This is why I think they love it so much. It's not just that it dehumanizes people, but that it means that you don't have to be guilty for doing a bad thing, like denying you your health care. Because you're going to talk to a machine, the machine doesn't care. But if you talk to a person, there's a small chance, that person might feel bad and help you. And that actually has happened. They're like, I can't deny this widow anymore. As soon as I got some money, I gave it to the widow. Saved her and her kids from being on the street. And AI won't do that. It's lovely. Last slide. I think it's, Tech Bro's in charge. I have 2 more slides, sorry. Okay, so now, I think a lot of this stuff is coming to a head, but now we have a problem because now they're in the building. Like they're in the government. Next slide. So we're now bolstering it and spending our tax money on this during a climate crisis, right? It's all, they're just like all in. To go after China. Next slide. And then OpenAI, just after Trump got elected, said, give us all your data. Give us everything. They have the government. Why not? Only by taking all of our personal data, all of it, can they, they're just using it as an excuse to go after China on one thing. Let me tell you, there's a lot of other things we should be doing, like fixing our infrastructure, fixing our water, making sure our houses don't burn down. I mean, these are really, having actual healthcare, this is not the only thing we need to be thinking of. Next slide. I think that might be it. Okay. That's it. Thank you for your attention, and I'll take any questions. I'll let you do it.
Okay, I've got a question, but anybody else have a burning question first? Great.
Scott, is it simply a sign of hubris? Why didn't they build a bit of humility into the system? You never ask AI, I'm saying this to someone in the audience, You don't ask a question and have it say, I'm not sure, but maybe, right, there was no thought of building humility into the system, right? Someone said it will confess to hallucinating at times, or
Or a mistake, yeah.
a mistake.
Yeah.
But I don't see much.
Yeah.
Is that a reflection of the designers?
Just
I,
have more to
so
say.
that's a good question. It is really interesting the decisions get made from the designers. Like, you know, I mean, we have to admit, the designers, the whole business is to sell. You want to sell things, so if they give you a little humility, it's because they think you want it. It's not because it is humble. You can say, give me a filter that is humble, that is wrong. But what they really want to do is have you only get its information, right? So when you go to Google, or when you go to Bing, or any of those, they give you an AI answer first. What does that mean? That means you don't look down the page. They're taking it from Wikipedia, they're taking it from all these other sources, and they're putting it up there. So they can be humble, but they give you as a fact. They want you to think we're right. That's why I think that's why they don't want you humble. They don't want to admit their machine is wrong, because then you'd start to doubt it, and you'd stop being able to sell it, right? So now they can just tell you it's right. I don't know, but I do know that Tesla? It was an automated car. Remember they had like, we're gonna use AI to not thing, and then they ran over somebody. Well, they had triggered that thing so that it would have to absolutely 110% make sure that that was a human before it put the brakes on. That is sociopathic. If I ran a company, I'd say, hey, if you have any chance that that's a human, put the brakes on. Nope, we just got to make 100. And by the time they had figured it out, it was too late and killed that woman. So that's the kind of thinking that when you let people just decide with no brakes, no understanding, no anything, and just let it run all over the place, I think that's the kind of thinking you get. I don't know the mindset, but I've talked to a lot of computer scientist types, and partly they're just like, it's not even that they're like mean or anything, they just believe, they're true believers in the super intelligence and the how it's, you talk to these people about cars, and you know what they say? It's like, well, it would work if people went off the streets. You know, if we moved everyone, I said, you're saying we have to retool our entire society so your car can go down the street safely. That's the mindset. It's not, I don't think they're trying to be mean like the programmers, but there's enough people who are worried that they blew the whistle on this stuff too.
This is a moment where I want to mention to all of us that rather than having this be a strict one-to-one Q&A between one questioner and our lecturer, Scott, let's make this an open discussion. So if anybody has any reaction to what either Craig or Scott said, speak up. You don't have to wait for your own question. I will walk all over the place with this microphone so we can have as much of a community discussion as possible.
My question is, isn't the United States defense establishment, especially with Trump coming in with all his field volunteer pals, isn't that the direction they're going to try to be pushing our defense? Pretty much AI and you know, divorced from people entirely?
I think it's already happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Trump is going to be particularly, he's not pushing something that doesn't already exist. I do think he is more likely to just let them do whatever they want. Like it's mostly about, it's like about regulations, about control. You can already see what Facebook did. They're like, take it all, just say whatever you like. Be as grotesque as you like. I think they're going to have, all these companies are going to have free reign. They're going to have Medicaid Advantage is going to have free reign, United Healthcare have free reign, the oil companies have free reign. They're going to start, I think they'll probably start letting automated cars run wherever they want. Things like that. I think that's going to happen. And I think the military, yeah, sure, like they don't, I honestly, they don't care who they kill. They don't care.
No,
They've proven that. They're like, yeah, they're just things on a screen. So I think they'll let it go hog wild.
I get that impression too.
That's my, but other people might have a different impression. Like, again, this is my talk, first time I've given it. I'm not right about everything, but I have yet to be proven wrong about these guys. Like I was saying years ago who these guys were. I have been right on every single part of it, so, but hey, I'm only one person.
Understanding that these machines are programmed, they're going on what they're programmed, they're not thinking for themselves. There's no possible way that the ungrounded fear that someday they're going to develop into an autonomous thinking machine on their own. That's kind of the fear that a lot of people are passing around, that they're gonna someday come to the point where they'll start thinking and take over. It sounds to me like that's impossible.
Yeah, they're not a brain. Like, I've studied the brain, I know what neurons are. They're not gonna be any kind of intelligence that we would consider intelligence. As they're currently configured, the technology, you need a warehouse the size of Grand Central Station to tell a robot to plug, to put something in the right outlet. Like, any 3-year-old or 2-year-old with a fork can find an outlet, right? Right? I mean, it's not thinking in the same way. It's really, really good at things, though. No, don't get me wrong. And I know people tell it. It is very good at tasks when the data is amazing. It can do predictions that are so nonlinear that humans can't do it, and that looks like magic, but it's just a function of having all of these deep learning methods and nodes. But if you ask it, like, why doesn't why is this cookie that you gave me not a dog? It can't tell you that, because it's not thinking in that way. It doesn't mean that it's not powerful and that it can't control automated weapon systems, that it can't do things, but it's still, someone's gonna have to send it out to do those things. But it's just not a brain. It's not a brain. Now, they might actually know that they're developing, this is wild, and I'm writing a book about this, but they're developing something called cerebral organoids. Anybody know what an organoid is? An organoid is a
Say
tissue.
that again, please, cerebral what?
So an organ, you know what an organ is?
Yes.
Like a kidney, a liver, spleen, whatever. They can grow organs or organ-like tissues in a laboratory. And they can actually make like mini brains and mini kidneys and it's really cool because you can potentially graft stuff, like you could grow it from your own cells, so you want ring, and you could graft it into your own bodies. It's possible, and they're hooking up cerebral organoids, little brains on chips, to try to use them. Now, I don't think they're very sophisticated. They're just a few neurons, and they're two-dimensional. But that could be a brain, and that's actually kind of wild. But then again, it's like, our brains are already pretty good. They're pretty sophisticated. Let's use them, right? I don't know. But the super thing, I think what that is, by the way, I think they want to scare us and tell us how powerful they are. So they say us, we're the only ones who understand. And you have to believe us that the super intelligence, it's not the bias, it's not the war, it's the super intelligence. What do they call it? The singularity that you have to be afraid of.
Even the human brain, even humans ourselves who can think, actually we're really no more than that, because we basically go by nature and nurture in making our decisions in day-to-day life. It depends on somebody's experience, what they may do in a particular situation. So we're really not that much different.
Different than these things?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
In terms of the way we process information.
No, they're completely different. Yeah. I don't agree with that at all. But it doesn't mean that you're not right. Like, we have emotions, we have feelings, we have all these fundamental processes that guide and can overwhelm higher order thinking processes. But it's just, somebody tried to figure out how many dimensions we actually think in, and they said it was something like 13 dimensions. We have an ability, what I see is we have this ability to learn, break, and reform new connections constantly in this, in the sense which, and that's where the flexibility and the abstraction comes in thinking. And I agree with you, if we don't apply ourselves to do much more than that, we're going to be ending up just regurgitating and just going by gut feeling. And obviously humans do that all the time. But it also makes us really special, creative, weird, different, and fun, because all our experiences are completely unique and they're changing constantly as our brains change. So I just think comparing the two is like, let's not compare them, but they want to compare them because then it furthers a narrative that helps you believe them and what they do. Does that make sense? I think that's where we're getting confused.
Thank you.
Yeah. But that's my opinion, but based on what I know about an actual neuron, it's totally wild.
See, I thought of another thing. It would be nice if we each said our name before we ask the question, so we can get a little better acquainted with each other, those of us who don't know each other?
So I'm Derek Cassidy, and Scott, my question is, the Union of Concerned Scientists in Washington, who run the Doomsday Clock, list artificial intelligence as one of 4 existential threats to humanity. If AI can't think like humans, how could AI be a threat to our existence?
Well, I gave you like multiple ways here, you know, certainly because it exacerbates climate change. But I think they too think about the singularity. But what I think you could do, let's hear a different scenario. It doesn't think, it doesn't care, it's amoral, right? And you put it in charge of a weapon, right? And you say just a little weapon. The quadcopters, the drones, it starts bombing people. For those people, the world's over, right? That's an existential threat to them. It's an existential threat to a lot of countries that we love to bomb. But let's say you decide, well, let's put it in charge of the nuclear arsenal. Like let's put some AI in there, and it can decide when the bomb goes off. Now, it's not thinking, it's not a singularity, it's not becoming a living being like an alien, someone we can talk to and have a game with. But it is, if we put it in charge of enough weapon systems, then maybe it could trigger, by accident, a nuclear, maybe it could not make a nuclear weapon happen, but we send it off and it accidentally gets into, I don't know, Moscow, kills the leader, and they said, time for a nuclear war, we're all gone. So I don't know if that's what they're thinking. I think the singularity is a red herring. But if you put it in charge, or if you put it in integrated, this way, if you integrate it in too many systems, I think they could become weird and unstable, especially if you don't know what they're making their decisions on. Does that make sense? Because you don't know what's the training data. I always tell my students, what's your training data for your machine learning? Is it good? If it's crap, it's garbage in, garbage out. That every computer scientist knows that. Garbage in. This is actually garbage in, garbage out, garbage back in, more garbage out, garbage back in, right? So I hope that I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but from what I've seen, that's what I would be worried about.
So I'm Nancy, and who's
Do you
sending?
have a last name?
Yes. Who's sending the word out? Who's like?
It's
telling
just me.
people?
I'm the only one. No, there are some really great. There's a really great journalists out there who've been critical of tech and artificial intelligence and data centers and how it's warping our society, not just on AI, but also just the use of algorithms to hook kids onto phones. I mean, what they want you to do, TikTok, all these Instagram, they want you to keep on it, constantly on it, constantly. If you know any kids, you can see the addictive dopamine-like quality of these things. They want us to see their ads, they want us to stay on it. I'm like this too. I read fewer books, I love reading books. But I'm like, oh, on Netflix, they go to the next thing. So there's been great journalists. I listen to a podcast called Tech Won't Save Us, which is really nice, very easy, great interviews all these great thinkers. They've been here the whole time, but they are marginalized because the media is really a propagandistic mouthpiece for these companies, because they're paid to write puff pieces. They're like, hey, what's up, Zuckerberg? What's new? This person, and they're selling us on Elon. They're selling, like, they knew who he was the whole time. And now we're finding out, oh yeah, it is this guy. That's the guy. I knew he was from South Africa. I knew when he left. You know when he left? After apartheid ended. I knew he had an emerald mine there, and that he had, I knew who was working in the emerald mine. So we know these, but they told us that these guys are geniuses. They're geniuses. He didn't invent Tesla. He forced them to say he was the founder. That's who we're talking about here. The problem is there's lots of good people out there. Like, I like this guy, Ed Zitron, Z-I-T-R-O-N. He loves technology, and he hates these guys. He hates what they've done to Google. Have you seen Google lately? Have you seen Amazon? Oh, another one to read is a really good author, writes loads of great science fiction books. Cory Doctorow. Cory Doctorow, excellent writer. Writes every single day, blogs, very thoughtful about how we can make tech work for us. They like tech. I like it too. I stand here this. I really use tech There's no way I could do my work without using computation. But I like to do it smart, and I don't believe all of it. I don't believe it. I tell people, don't trust it until you prove it. Like, that's what science should be about. Try it, use it, but how is it working? What are the databases? How does it use it? People just publish this garbage in my field. Garbage. And this isn't even serious. This isn't like life or death stuff. This is like the gut microbiome. Like, no one's going to die. But don't publish garbage. And that's, we have to think that way. And so I think Cory Doctorow is really good about that. They like the tech, but they want it to be under our control and do good things for us. And that's my biggest worry, is that it's not doing a good thing, it's just for making money. And it's gonna make our lives really tough. When you get denied healthcare and you have to call up a robot, you'll see what it's like, right? Good luck getting your money back. Good luck.
Anybody you have in mind besides Ed Zitron and Cory Doctorow?
The Tech Won't Save Us, Paris Marx, M-A-R-X.
Paris, M-A-R-X.
Mm-hmm. And
Is that P-A-R-I-S?
Paris is the city. Tech Won't Save Us is good. 404 Media. 404 Media used to be, I think, The Verge, but it's now a website run by people who were fired or laid off from The Verge. They made their own cooperative tech website, and it's really good. They really write. Do real journalism. Like, they'll say good things that they're good, but they'll say, hey, that's not so good if it's not. That's what you want a journalist to do, right? You know that. But a lot of the tech media is particularly awful because didn't they try to sell us on Meta's 3D garbage? You remember that? The guys with no legs? Like, oh, it's going to be the best thing ever. Does anyone remember that? No? Like we're going to be in the virtual reality? It was garbage. And they were like, it's the next thing. It was just to get Facebook out of its its public relations problem.
Yes.
Yeah, Bill. These are great questions, by the way. I'm an excitable guy, so you can tell me to shut up.
So my name is Bill, and I would just like to add another person to Nigaru, Timnitgeberu. She's an Ethiopian. Yeah, she's an Ethiopian computer scientist. She writes a lot of, maybe a little bit more on the technical side on, the ethics of AI and machine learning. Her most famous, it's the most famous incident around her is, remember when Google first released like its AI tool to describe an image, some really edgy guys put a bunch of, photos of black people on there, and the AI said gorillas. And she wrote a paper on why she was working for Google. She was the Google's chief ethics scientist or something. She wrote a paper describing why. It was mainly because the computer scientists never bothered to feed the training data with images of black people. So and she got fired for it.
Could you repeat her name?
Timnitgeberu.
How do you spell it?
T-I-M.
I'm most likely mispronouncing her name, but it's Timnit Geberu.
Timnitgeveru?
B.
Yeah, Timnit.
Geberu.
Yeah.
Yeah, very excellent scientist, really good, and was fired.
And what's her field?
Ethics, AI ethics. And
Ethics AI?
AI ethics, and she worked for Google. And she was part of their hire to do ethics for Google. I didn't like what she had to say. It turned out she was right, and the whole team was right, and they're like, yeah, we gotta get rid of you. So that was, one of the reasons, by the way, this is an off street, but the reasons that Google has gone downhill so fast as a search engine is because they put the ad guy in charge of search. The ad guy, forget his name, but he's now in charge of search, and he came from which awesome company? What other website company we all used to know begins with a Y?
Yahoo.
He was at Yahoo. He ran Yahoo into the ground and somehow moved jobs, and now he's the head of Google search. And now they put all the ads at the top of Google search. So it's harder to trust it. But it's because Google pays to be the first search engine on every phone and every device. That's why they've got this in, so that most people, do you guys know how to change your search? Does anyone know how to change? I know Bill probably does, but some people do, but you probably don't do it. Even if you know how to do it, you have to go to I did DuckDuckGo, because it doesn't track you, so it can't really sell you things as well. It sells you stuff, don't get me wrong. They all sell you stuff. But it doesn't know me from my searches, right? So that's the kind of thing that these engines, and I think Cory Doctorow wrote this great article called Enshittification. Do you know about this?
Yeah.
And it's the death spiral of tech monopolies and social media monopolies, and he wrote this. It became a word now I can say it, because it's a word. But it's a really good article that's worth reading. And then Ed Zitron, Zitron, talked about the rot economy. So he's coming up, he thinks that the rot economy is a good metaphor for it. So if you look at the rot economy, you might read something like that. So I'm a skeptic on all technology. I'm an actual egg from way back. Even though I'm a computer scientist and a biologist, I had never, after my first computer broke, I was like, I'm not gonna buy a computer until, I'm never buying the cutting edge. I'm waiting until I will only buy it if I actually need it. You should see my phone. People just laugh at how ridiculous this thing is. But I'm like, it works. I had a BlackBerry way longer than everyone else because it was like cool. It had the little button and keyboard. So I'm a skeptic, and other people aren't. But these people really love tech, and and that's when you should be skeptic. You love something and still want it to be better. So I like that a lot.
Any follow-up, Bill? That's it. Yes.
I probably don't need a microphone.
Remember your name.
Okay, I'm Colin. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really like the fact that you're demystifying what is sometimes people see this as this greater intelligence.
A little closer with the microphone.
This as you call it, like singularity, or I actually references to God and things like that.
GAI, is that called, like general artificial intelligence? Is it going to be any day now?
Yeah. So, and I guess, so for me personally, I have an ambivalent relationship. I'm a teacher also, and it's a disaster. It's a complete disaster in the classroom. And I agree with you completely that I think we would be so much better if we went back to chalk, right? I mean, we would get so much more out of these students. And it's destroyed, I think, the 3-page essay. On the other hand, it's been really useful for research. I ask it questions. 90% of the time it's wrong, but every once in a while it will it'll spark an idea that I have, it'll send me in a different direction. And I guess my question is, there's a theory of technology, and you're saying that you're kind of a Luddite. There's this theory of technology that technology is neutral, that it can be,
that's a great theory.
That's how you use it, right? The printing press, you can produce the trial on the printing press, or you can produce Mein Kampf, right? You can do either one.
Right.
It's how humans use that tool. So, and I wonder, we have in the presentation, there's the technology, there's corporate America, or corporations, global corporations, and then there's the state. And I kind of wondered, if we had just sort of hypothetically a world like a Bernie Sanders type of democratic socialist world, could you use this tool in a way that would be productive, or something that would be generative and helpful for society? Or do you see it as just inherently like we need to put this back in the bottom?
Well, I did talk about the way it's currently configured, how much energy, resources, money, and what it's really being used for at the point. So the way it's currently configured, I actually think it's impossible for it to be any good. Does that mean that AI, the whole idea is bad, that we couldn't use it? So if we say, let's step back a bit and say, well, what are our actual values? What is actually going to get us in the next 5 or 10 years to actually have a survivable and living planet, right? And what are we putting all our money and resources towards at this moment? Crypto and AI. So I think I almost feel like it's almost beside the point to talk about like how to make us more productive. Productive in doing what? If I say productive in getting people home off the streets, I would rather pay a bunch of people to come over and build houses. I know we don't need it. We could make AI do that. We could make it design some houses. But I want those people paid to make the houses. I want them to regrow forests. I want them to make food. I want them to, not use so much damn energy. I want them to have renewables. Now, if we have our value system around taking care of people, giving people health care, taking care of the elderly, taking care of babies, not making it expensive, like all this money, all this gargantuan billions of dollars going to these maniacs, like these CEO maniacs, like that is so beyond the pale of what we need to do as a society. It makes it very hard for me to have a productive discussion about something like ChatGPT. Now, having said that, if we just roll the clock back and you say, hey, we got this really cool technology, it's kind of a cool magic trick that can do some good stuff. Well, let's see, what is the problem? If we can deal with the energy, if we can deal with the climate, if we can deal with the fact that people are not being compensated for their work, right? If we can deal with the fact that it's actually, we could use it in education, but we have to say, well, how are people actually thinking and learning? Are we ruining our kids? Like, if we go all that, and we can say with regulation, Bernie style regulation, Bernie style, this kind of thing, let's get it a little under control. Let's not let them go hog wild and take all of our resources and literally, like I said at the end, literally make us pay their profits. That would help a lot, because if we couldn't do that, if we couldn't scam us, then AI would come out as a slower pace, I believe. And it could be directed in the right direction, right? But now it's just being dumped on us, and the problem is, right now it's working really well, and you're getting some good answers, but as I said, as you start to fill the web up with more crappy essays, as you start to fill up and then people lose their jobs who actually do journalism, it's going to start eating its own poop. It's going to start eating the output of the AI, and your answers are starting to degrade. So at this moment, sure, great. If it always worked like that, brilliant. If you stopped your model and you said, this is my training set is awesome, and we had people look at it, then I could say, yes, but there's so many ifs. It's like an if statement program that's so long, and yet I look at it and I'm like, let's look at what we really need to do. Maybe we should get rid of SDG. Maybe we should underground our power lines so we don't have forest fires. Maybe we should have fish in the ocean and not trawl the depths. There's so many things, and it's a gigantic distraction. And then they tell us, oh, it's going to fix all that. No, it's not fixing it. It's making it worse in every level. So I love it on a personal level. I'm glad people get something out of it. I like to use machine learning. I use it all the time to do my studies. I don't do this, I just use one computer. I don't do a million computers. And I hope it saves someone's life. I really do. And I hope it cures some cancer. But the scale, the way it's implemented and the way it's out of control, no regulation, no bar, no thing, and we pay billions for it when we could be helping my neighbor. My neighbor who's dead, lying in the street and can't get food, doesn't give a crap about ChatGPT. Can't. And that really, so I don't know, that's why I think it's so much beyond what we need to be doing right now. And I think it's just a giant distraction that's there to make billionaires the wealthiest people who have ever lived, ever.
Wow. I know you. You said you were Derek.
But thanks for the question.
I'm Derek.
Get excited.
I'm Derek, and if I ask ChatGPT, will AI destroy humanity? What will the answer be?
Well, you know what I'll tell you about that? It'll be based on what everybody else has written about whether it destroyed humanity. So, if you have 1 million articles that say the singularity is real, that it's coming to destroy humanity because Sam Altman said it 1 million times in 1 million articles, the probability will say that it will choose that yes, it will destroy humanity. You see what I'm saying? So it's based on what we put into it. And if we stop having skeptical voices like mine, like Corey's, like that, we cut them out, those voices are going to be a fraction of a fraction that say, no, it's not going to do that, it's going to do something else. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's what we have to remember. It's a probability machine, not a thinking machine. And that's, people still get confused on that. It's gonna tell you, if there's more propaganda, there's a new person. We did record this, right? Lisa? Thanks for being here for so long. This is a really good
Tell us your name too.
Hi everyone, sorry I was late. I typed it into ChatGPT and it sent me somewhere else.
That's very funny. I like it. Good one.
Mine is a request for feedback. So, I learned that the term artificial intelligence was coined in like the 1950s. And similar to what you're saying, it's always kind of been actually more of a marketing term than anything that's like a technical specification.
Right.
And one of the things that Timney Gebru points out is that this AGI, the artificial general intelligence, is undefinable. There's no way to try to technically describe things that we don't even have any conception of around consciousness or whatever these things are. So the term itself is deeply misleading, right? And it sort of mystifies and mythicalizes these things. So I've been tossing around an alternative name to talk about these concepts, and it's SLURP. It's an acronym. It stands for Surveilled and Laundered Uncompensated Labor, that's the U, and Relationships, because all these databases are also, they define relationships between the people who collected the data and who was collected about for profit, that's the P. So surveilled and laundered uncompensated labor and relationships for profit. And then when you see something that's written by ChatGPT, you can kind of tell that it's bland and meaningless. It's slurp. It's slurpy. And so it can be a verb and it can be a noun. Would you slurp the answer to this question? No, you should write it. That kind of a thing. So I'm curious how you think about that term.
No, that's good. You might add another P on the end for power. So profit and power, slurp. I think that's, again, I use it in science. I think it could do things you cannot do, the human brain can't possibly do. The data is so vast. So if you have a climate model, and you're going to model all the variables everywhere in the entire planetary we can measure to come up with some kind of prediction of how the weather is going to go, that's hugely valuable. And NSF has big supercomputers that are going to do that. That might be worth your time. That's not so slippery.
Right, exactly.
That would be cool. If you're going to give it to Raytheon, right, and we're going to give them billions of dollars to create a hunter-killer, I think that's Slurpee with the P, And those are choices, and I think that's, again, those are choices, and I think Colin make a great point. We could decide, this is what we're going to do for it, we're going to test it, we're going to even verify that the freaking training data is right. No one's doing that. And we're not going to, remember I said, we still have to pay an army of poorly paid, traumatized people to make sure that we don't see kids being put in washing machines. That is horrifying, but it's true. That's what people have to look at. I don't want to look at that. That's something we also have to think about when we're talking about, like someone has to read the N-word all day long to keep us from reading the N-word. And they're in Kenya and they're black. I mean, that's just wrong. And no one cares. Nobody knows it's happening except a few brave people. So I want to be positive. I think it could be cool. I think you could do like astrophysics. And I want to know about the universe. You could predict things that no model except an AI, like a neural net, deep neural network could do. But let's keep our priorities straight and let's have it use a lot less energy. Just a lot less energy. We don't have it. We need it.
That seems like a pretty good note to end on, unless someone else has a burning question left. I don't see no fingers, no hands. So let's once again thank Scott for a wonderful presentation and discussion.
I spent all day on it. I like to appreciate.
I just want to add one thing. At the Peace Resource Center, we've been discussing our goals, what we want to do, and I've been trying to put together some term that would express the value by which we want to live. And I think in contradistinction to artificial intelligence, maybe we could just call it, we're trying to construct a real value society. Something like that. What can we base our decisions on? Not money.
Let's have old-fashioned intelligence.
Yeah. Well, Rabbi Michael Lerner came up with this notion of we need to establish a new bottom line, is how he put it. Not everything based on profit over people, purely on monetary profit. So I'm just looking around for the best phrase.
Good old-fashioned compassion has to come back into it.
Yes, all these verities. And I thought maybe we could sum it up by just saying real value, as opposed to artificial this and that. But
I like that idea, like having real values as the basis for building this stuff. You build it under real values, you might get a real different output. Like I know people who are trying to bring their languages back or save their languages. They don't have many speakers left, but they're putting in. What are they putting in? They're not just scraping stuff on the internet. They're using the old people to speak, right? Before their languages die out. That is a value system for computers. That is cool, right? And they're not using the energy of the eastern seaboard to do it. That is just not sustainable. It's not sustainable. Things that are not sustainable, by definition, will not be sustained. Oh, by the way, if you ever want to give me give a talk on Sempra or frack gas or anything like that, that's when I'm really an expert on it.
all right, one more round for Scott.
Thank you, guys.
Thank all of you for coming.
Man, I might get another one of those cookies. Actually, good. They put them away. Really good. Yeah, I was just watching a documentary about the trip process this week, and I'm like unconscious is like, I kind of want some of the process.
I didn't even think phone batteries were that strong. You could do that.
Anyway, well, I had some grapes too, so.
Anyway, yeah, I'm glad I came. Thought it was interesting. And I think we're going to see a little dying on it. It is. And I keep reading about all the connections between Israel and the United States, the CIA, Mossad, all the
No, but it's no
deal.
We should have a drink or something. Okay.
Come on, let's find out. I'm gonna call him.
I gotta go
Find out
for
where he is.
bed. Nice to see you. Yeah. Are you gonna do the march tomorrow?
Tomorrow, so we can have a huge discussion about it. There's two simultaneous tomorrow.
One at 2 o'clock then. Yes.
It's a timeline.